On this short video, I want to talk about certain elements of Passover Seder. One might wonder, why am I talking about it now, a few months before Pesach? The reason is, of course, the end of this week's Parsha, Parsha Bo, where we read about the main commandments of Passover, and in particular, the questions that the children will ask. 3 of the 4 questions, 3 of the 4 sons are mentioned in this week's Parsha. Of course, the Torah nowhere says that there will be different children. 4 children will ask you different kinds of questions. Rather, what our sages noticed is that there are 4 places in the Torah where an answer is given to various children. In 3 of the cases, the children are asking a question. In 1 case, the Torah just says, you will tell your children, so it sounds like the child didn't ask anything. And that's how the sages determined that there are 4 types of children. Keneged arba banim dibra Torah. The Torah is talking about 4 different types of children. In this week's Parsha, 3 of them are mentioned, and in the Parshat Va'etchanan, when Moshe, in the end of his life, reviews the Torah, there is a 4th son. Actually, the wise son, so-called, is the one that asks very elaborate questions and gets a very complete answer. That's in Parshat Va'etchanan. For some reason, that's only in the end of the Torah. The 3 other sons are in this week's Parsha. By the way, nowhere, of course, the Torah says that you have to tell the wise son, En maftirim achar Pesach afikoman. The afikoman, in fact, is apparently a Greek word. It's mentioned in the Mishnah at the very end of the tractate Psachim. So the simple meaning of the answer to the Chacham is that you tell him all the laws of Pesach until the last one. That you're not allowed to eat anything after you finish the Pesach Korban, and nowadays the matzah is kineged afikoman, so that there's no dessert on Pesach. This is the dessert. The end of the meal is either used to be a piece of meat, and now it's a piece of matzah. That's the end of it. So we tell the wise son, everything, all the details of the laws of Pesach until the last one. But there are other explanations too about the afikoman. I'm not going to go into this. But all the Torah says in Parshat Va'etchanan is that you're going to tell him all the different laws. But what about the other 3 sons? So there are a few questions to be asked. First of all, how did the sages determine that one of the sons is wicked? And also, what does it mean that the son is tam? What's the word tam here? So for one thing, the idea that there are 4 sons actually fits very well with the general theme of Pesach Seder, and that is that there are a lot of 4s. I would say that for every Jewish holiday, there is usually a number which is very important for that holiday. So in particular, in Pesach, there are a lot of 4s. There are 4 cups of wine, 4 parts of the Seder, 4 questions that are asked, and 4 sons. Keneged arba banim dibra Torah. As I mentioned, one of the sons, it doesn't even say that he'll ask anything. So the sages determined that son is not going to ask himself, so you have to start a conversation. At petachlo. That's supposedly a very young son, probably, who doesn't know how to ask. So the other 2 sons mentioned in this week's Parsha, the first of the sons mentioned is the one that Chazal called wicked, and another son is mentioned who is Chazal called tam. So why is the wicked son called wicked? There are 2 main answers given. One is that, interestingly, the Torah doesn't say that your son will ask. Rather, your children will tell you. Very different, right? Asking something or telling you something. Ask means a person wants to know the answer. Telling is that the person made up his mind already and he's just telling you, Ma avada zot lachem. What do you need all this for? Lachem v'lo, right? And another thing about the son is he doesn't even mention Hashem. The main thing is missing in his understanding of the Seder. It's all secular. What do you need this for? Right? The question of the wise son is what Hashem, our God, commanded, all the different details. But here it's just, what do you need this for? Ma avada zot lachem. So that's why he is deemed wicked. And interestingly, the Torah doesn't say to answer him. The Gra, the Vilna Gaon, mentions as an interesting point that it doesn't say you should answer him. Apparently, the Torah is saying that you talk to the other children and you tell the other children, Zevach Pesach, right? We just believe what we believe, and there's no point of talking to this guy who already made up his mind. That's why, by the way, our sages, when they put up the Haggadah, they actually put the answer of the son who doesn't know how to ask in the place of the wicked son. Because the answer really to the wicked son, there is no answer. We're not talking to him. But in the meantime, you talk to the children who don't know how to ask, and you tell them about the Pesach on the level they can understand. But with regards to the wicked son, the Gemara, the Agada and the Midrashim say that we basically explain that he wouldn't have even been saved from Egypt had he been there. He wouldn't deserve to be saved. Now, with regards to the simple son, it's very interesting because there is a version in the end of Jerusalem Talmud and tractate Psachim. In Babylonian Talmud, there is no discussion of 4 sons altogether. But in the Jerusalem Talmud, there is. And there, the 4 sons are called also wise son, wicked son, the son that doesn't know how to ask, and the foolish son, tipesh, a stupid son. Very interesting. Stupid is not the same as tam. Now, our version of the Pesach Haggadah comes from Mechilta. Mechilta is a Halachic Midrash. There are all kinds of Midrashim we have. Besides the 2 Talmuds, the other authoritative source that is quoted much less, but is used for certain things and for certain understandings. These are the various Midrashim. From the times of the sages of about 2000 to about 1,500 years ago, we have 2 Talmuds from their times and various Midrashim. So some Midrashim are Agadic, meaning they're mostly stories. By the way, Pesach Haggadah comes from the same word. Haggadah or Agada is really the same idea as the Agadas of the Talmud and of various Midrashim. Agadas means stories and various explanations of verses. They usually don't have so much halacha in them, so much legal context. So there's Agada and there's halacha. In the Talmud there is both. Mostly it's halacha and a little bit of Agada. But in some Midrashim there's only Agada and very, very little halacha. On the other hand, there are halachic midrashim. In particular, the midrash to Sefer Shemot, to the book that we're now reading, is called Mechilta. There are actually 2 versions of Mechilta, but mostly it's Mechilta de Rabbi Ishmael that we quote. Mechilta of Rabbi Ishmael and his school. So this Mechilta brings exactly the Nusach of our Pesach Haggadah. So the Agada that we read everywhere, both Sephardim, Ashkenazim, Yemenite Jews, the Agadas don't differ that much. All of that comes from the version of the Mechilta, at least the 4 sons, not from the version of Jerusalem Talmud. I don't know why it was chosen, but that's the version that's chosen. And there, as I mentioned, the other son is not tipesh, it's not a stupid son, it's a tam, a simple son. So some explain that simple here actually is not a negative quality at all. In fact, the Vilna Gaon explains that simple here means like Yaakovish tam. It says about Yaakov as opposed to Esav that Yaakov was a simple, meaning straightforward, not crooked, not wicked. So in a sense, according to Vilna Gaon, we have 2 pairs of sons. There's a wise son, and the opposite is the son who doesn't know what to ask. And then there is a wicked son, and the opposite of wickedness is tam, a son who is a believer without question, a righteous and simple believer. But tmimut here does not mean some kind of a simplicity in terms of stupidity. In this case, tam is a positive thing. But like I said, there is at least one tradition in Yerushalmi, in Jerusalem Talmud, that holds that the tam is actually a stupid. It's not really tam; it's a tipesh, a foolish son. An interesting explanation I saw from one of the contemporary rabbis that a lot of times, unfortunately, in our exile in America and certain other places, we have generations of Jews that are personified by these 4. We have first a wise son, that's usually someone who came from a Torah background and wants to continue on the ways of Torah. A lot of times, the older generation that came to America, for instance, 100 years ago and earlier, they used to still want to continue with the mitzvot. And then their children abandoned the Torah, so that's the generation of wicked son. And then there was a generation of children who knew just a very little bit, and all they could say is, why, right? What's this? Mazot. And the last, fourth son, of course, already doesn't even know what to ask. Then there is already a missing son. A lot of times, in 4 generations, the Jews in America became totally assimilated and forgot pretty much everything they knew. Then, Baruch Hashem, the situation started changing, and the 5th son actually became, or the 4th son actually became the son that became a Baal Tshuva, started keeping the mitzvot, started asking questions about Judaism, just like I did, and probably today a very large portion of the Orthodox Jews are either Baalei Tshuva or children of Baalei Tshuva. Probably close to a third or a half of Orthodox Jews of America are those whose grandparents were not observant or already were the lost generation. They were the 3rd or the 4th son, and now it's the 4th or the 5th or the 6th, I don't know, son who is coming back. Especially daughter, even more common among women, Baruch Hashem. The women are usually closer to spirituality. So there's a lot of Baalei Tshuva, Baalot Tshuva, Baruch Hashem. So the situation has been changing for the better. And we really hope that it will continue, that the trend will continue. And if you like this video, please press like and please subscribe to our channel.